Hello beautiful people and welcome to your astrological video. So in this one I will be focusing on the final eclipse in the sign of Pisces, and also this eclipse is the final eclipse of 2026, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which depending where you are, you might be experiencing tonight on the 27th or tomorrow on the 28th. For me it's gonna be on the 28th. So this video will be released at the time of this eclipse speaking, but I'm recording this a day before, so technically last minute, but moon is still in the sign of Aquarius, so still on time. Also Sun and Mercury are going to have their conjunction. It hasn't happened yet at the time of me recording this, but it will have happened by the time you're watching this. And also post the eclipse we will have the Mercury square to Uranus and Sun square to Uranus, but Uranus is a very active participant to this eclipse, squaring both the Sun and the Moon and the lunar nodes. This eclipse, even though still in the sign of Pisces, it's happening on the North Node in the sign of Aquarius on that anuretic 29 degrees, where the North Node will remain until October. So we have North Node on anuretic 29 degrees for like a 2.5 months, which is very unusual, but you know, there are a lot of unusual things going on in the sky. And as I mentioned, this is the final one of the Piscean eclipses, which we never had the solar eclipse, only lunar eclipse, and this has been ongoing since September 17 or 18, depending where you were at the time. September 17, 2024, that's the first lunar eclipse in Pisces we experienced. I remember that day very well because that's when I met my husband, literally hours or minutes just before the eclipse peaked. And then, as I mentioned, there was no solar eclipse, only the lunar eclipse in 2024, September 2024. Then prior to this one, we had an eclipse last September, which I believe, yes, September 7th, 2025. And this is the final one now, August 27, 28. So when it all began on September 17 or 18 in 2024, Pluto was still in a sign of Capricorn. Can you believe it? Everything was still in the old signs. Even the nodes were in Aries and Libra, you know, and now we've gone a long way, you know, already nodes moved through Virgo Pisces, and we are already in the, you know, Aquarius, Leo axis, and we, you know, planets all shifted. Pluto is in Aquarius, already has been since November 2024, and now we have Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, all change signs, all retrograde apart from Uranus. Uranus will station retrograde next month on September 10th. And also Chiron, let's not forget Chiron. Of course, we have Chiron in the sign of Taurus, still on that anuretic 0 degrees until September 14th. Let me just double check. I believe September 14th or 17th. Let's see. When is Chiron moving? September 17th. Yeah, so Chiron will move right after, well, technically in between the new moon in Virgo and the full moon in Aries. So new moon in Virgo being on September 10th. And that's the day when Uranus will station retrograde. So this is the not the final, but one of the last two lunations with Chiron on the anuretic 0 degrees of Taurus. Chiron will return back into the sign of Taurus in April 14th, I believe, right after Jupiter stations direct after his long retrograde. So before the end of the month, the only thing that I want to mention is that Venus will enter her pre-retrograde shadow, which will be on August 31st in the sign of Libra, because we will have both Venus and Mars retrograde soon. And also, well, Mercury is conjuncting Sun, as I already mentioned, and then Sun and Mercury will be squaring Uranus post the eclipse. But for the eclipse itself, let me see what's going on here. Yeah, so we have obviously a T-square between the Sun and Moon in opposition in conjunction with the nodes and Uranus. Uranus being on 5 degrees 37 minutes of Gemini, and the resolution node, because Uranus acts as a skip step, the resolution node is the North Node in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, and also, you know, as a traditional ruler, ruled by Saturn, currently retrograde on 13 degrees of Aries, so that's the Leo decan of Aries and the Aries degree. And also there is a kind of T-square, even though, you know, it's kind of a white orb between Saturn and well, Mars and Venus. There is already 10-degree orb almost, but it is still a T-square between Saturn, Mars and Venus, at the precipice of which is Mars, ruled by Moon, because Mars is still in the sign of Cancer on 10 degrees and 57 minutes, which is the second decan of Cancer, which is Scorpio. And actually that was the decan when it was the first eclipse. The first eclipse was in Scorpionic decan, last year's eclipse was in Cancerian decan, and this one finally is in the Piscean decan. So we are dissolving the whole sense of identity being on the 4 degrees, the current eclipse on the 4 degrees 54 minutes. So going back to Mars, Mars is connected to the eclipse because it's ruled by the moon, and Saturn is connected to Mars because it's ruled by the Mars, and Saturn and Uranus both are the core ruler of the North Node, that is the very active participant of this eclipse, because the eclipse is happening on the North Node, even though it is in Aquarius. So we have a lot of very interesting patterns that are breaking in astrology, as I already mentioned, with the Piscean eclipse being just the lunar eclipse. Prior to that, since 2023 to 2025, we had only solar eclipses in Aries, and now we have just begun the solar eclipses in Leo, which will have no lunar eclipse until 2036. So you see, astrology is doing its own thing. Also, already next year, we will experience the first lunar eclipse in Capricorn, despite the fact that nodes still being in a sign of Aquarius and Leo. And and then we'll have the 5 eclipses, right, next year and the year after, and in 2029 6 eclipses. So what can I tell you? So anyway, with all of this said, as I mentioned, there are these 2 squares in the sky, T-squares, at the precipice of which we have Uranus, which is the ruler of Pluto, and Mars, which is how Pluto acts consciously. Uranus being in Gemini, ruled by the Mercury. The Sun currently is ruled by the Mercury, being a sign of Virgo in this new cycle. This Mercury Sun conjunction in a sign of Virgo, therefore Mercury being in opposition with the eclipse. So this is where we are starting, and also let's not forget Chiron is in a square with Pluto. So this is a first quarter square for Chiron, crisis in action. Chiron being a sign of Taurus, connected to Venus. Venus is opposition to Saturn, takes us back to the North Node. And also there was a trine. There is a trine between Saturn and Jupiter. Yeah, and this is a first trine for Jupiter, which is the Leo trine. What are we creating? Leo literally, Jupiter literally being a sign of Leo, therefore ruled by the Sun, which is the participant of the eclipse. So we can see how all these planets are connected. Also, of course, still the ongoing sextile between Pluto and Neptune, Neptune being in the foundational sextile to Pluto. Foundational means Taurus, what are we creating, what foundation are we creating? Chiron being on 0 Taurus, the anueretics, which is like, okay, the foundation from Saturn, the manifested reality, which now became redundant in a sense, because Saturn is in Aries, no longer in Pisces. The cycle has ended. And Uranus, key between Saturn and Uranus being in a sign of Gemini. Gemini is about choice, and Mercury being in this new cycle with Sun on the 5 degrees. Mercury is on the 5 degrees of Virgo, therefore Leo degree. What are we creating? So all of this said, when you look at the chart, there are a lot of things you can decipher, you can look into, all the aspects, everything, but just the fact, the eclipse in itself is a full moon illumination. It is the final full moon, in Pisces, that is an eclipse of the 3, and there were only lunar eclipses, as I mentioned already multiple times in this video. So there was a lot of illumination of what has ended, the old sense of identity, the old end of sense of structure. This is why with the Jupiter, now in Leo, so we're starting to slowly but surely understand what Jupiter in Cancer meant for us, because as I mentioned, Jupiter, we can't really understand Jupiter transiting through a sign until it's in the next sign, or a few signs ahead, because Jupiter has a long pre-retrograde, retrograde, and post-retrograde trajectory in one sign. So now we finally starting to understand, with Jupiter now being ruled by the Sun, things are being illuminated, like, what have I outgrown? Where am I limiting myself? This reality, this Capricorn, manifested reality that now is redundant, because Saturn as the ruler is in Aries. Saturn as the ruler of the North Node in Aquarius, co-ruled by Uranus in Gemini, that it's saying a new choice has to be made, a new timeline has to be created, right? With the Mercury now on these 5 degrees. So all of this put together, how it would very likely feel in your life, because of course we are in Virgo season now, which is all very, earthy, like very tangible, like, okay, but how does this feel in my life? How does it apply? What is the practical lived experience of this energy, of this energy that is this, this Piscean eclipse on the North Node in Aquarius offering to us? it's very likely, a lot of things, and this is again, I can share from my life, a lot of things that we've been processing, spinning wheels, that were coming in a loop, and every year, every eclipse, we kind of like, how do you say, digest it or become more conscious of another layer, of another layer of that process. But now with all of this, totality, Piscean eclipse on a Piscean, decan on 4 degrees Cancer, with all the other things that are going on there, with the Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Aries and Venus in, Libra in opposition with Saturn and all the rest of it. The things have to be balanced, the energy now, in a sense, achieved a certain level of crisis, that it's saying that, okay, well, we need to release this, Pisces, we need to release this, we need to let it go. So because the new energy, already, these 3 eclipses in Aries, done and dusted, and now we are in these eclipses in Leo, solar eclipses, this new energy wants to be created, it wants to be put into form. Jupiter next year, Jupiter the Zeus, the god, Jupiter is going to move into Virgo next summer. So Jupiter wants to put it in a form. As I already mentioned, we also will have the first eclipse in Capricorn. What are we creating? What are we putting into form in preparation for Saturn's ingress into the sign of Taurus the following year in 2028, in which year we will have Jupiter in a sign of Virgo. So this is when, Virgo going into Libra. Libra is the important aspect because that will enter Jupiter into the upper hemisphere of the chart, like when you start with Aries, first house, 7th house Libra. So for my understanding, I'm not saying, this is the universal truth, Jupiter starting in a sign of Aries, now being in a Leo, we are going to then move into the sign of Virgo, which is the in between, the one that takes us to Libra. So this is all about us starting to become more aware of self, like what are we able to create, where have we been limiting ourselves. Jupiter also was the co-ruler of the North Node in Pisces, like our infinite eternal origin, cosmic origin. I can create, I have the access to the spirit, I have the access to everything, to quantum field. But we forgot. Why did we forget? Because of the belief systems, because of the program, because of the cultural, religious and all these other things that created a box, and it kept us safe. This is again like where we can't underestimate a value of this, that it served in a Piscean age. We can't underestimate how these things, culture, tradition, religion, how that gave people hope. It gave people hope. It gave them something to have a faith, something that kept them going through the Piscean age, that helped them to survive. But we are no longer in Piscean age. Now we are in an Aquarian age, and now these things became a box. Before it was a box that kept us protected. It gives us a certain definition, structure, and this the Cancer Capricorn thing. It gave you a boundary, what's right, what's not right, blah blah blah. But with the Capricorn, there is always hierarchy. There is always someone that is an authority, whether that's a god, whether it's a king, whether it's a cultural figure, whether it's a whoever, celebrity, president, doesn't matter. So it's hierarchical. So when you have the Capricorn, you have to be the Cancer, you have to be the child, I don't know, and I don't know who I am. You tell me who I am, and then, that will determine my purpose, my Leo, right? But that's all finished now, because now Pluto is done with Capricorn. It has been done with Capricorn, literally, like Pluto was on 29 degrees 47 minutes at the first eclipse in Pisces in September 2024. That's 11/11, right? And Saturn, of course, was still in a sign of Pisces. Neptune was in Pisces, blah, blah, blah. So Pluto is done with Capricorn as of November 2024. Didn't go back, not gonna go back for long time, not to concern ourselves with, we're not gonna be around for that. So now with this, Pluto is done with Capricorn, Saturn is done with Pisces. That was not the case 2 years ago in 2024, but now it's the case, plus Uranus is done with Taurus. Now Chiron is on 0 Taurus. They say, okay, let's unlock this key, because with the Uranus throughout his it transferred values. Transit from 2018, when it entered Taurus until April this year, when it fully exited Taurus, our values have completely changed. like none of us is the same person we were in 2018, having the same value, you know, like interacting with reality in the same way, you know, the relational dynamics, Libra and stuff. So all of these now is like, okay, well, you know, we had these 2 years of transitions, you know, and now Saturn is not going back to Pisces, Neptune is not going back to Pisces, Uranus is no longer going back to, you know, Gemini Taurus. So we had this transitionary period last year, the year number 9, you know, when things were closing, they were closing, and now is the year 10, you know, the 0 and the 1, the Fool and the Magician. So it's like we really at the back of the old, we start in the new, we are creating the new. So this eclipse being squared by Uranus as the ruler of the North Node, the eclipse is happening on the North Node, while Saturn is in a square with T-square with Mars and Venus, you know, at the precipice of which is Mars, ruler of Saturn and Neptune. We really are pushed to acknowledge, you know, especially being in Virgo season now, you know, Sun is on 4 degrees, Cancer, you know, what do I know about myself? What did I learn, you know, with the Virgo? What did I learn? What can I discern about myself? You know, this is a preparation for Jupiter in Virgo next year. This is a we still have an eclipse in Virgo next year, believe it or not. There is still an eclipse in Virgo next year, you know, in the Piscean season. So we are not fully done with this, you know, eclipses, Pisces, Virgo on the Virgo side. So we're still going to have one more, you know, in Virgo, no solar eclipse anymore, but we have still one more lunar eclipse. So this is all a preparation for Jupiter in Virgo, which will then slowly but surely start moving us into the Libra sphere, you know, the upper hemisphere of the chart, which is saying that, okay, you know, this is what you had to learn about yourself. And then this is what you're going to offer to the world to help to co-create a balance, you know, as of 2028, also with the Saturn in a Taurus, you know, by that point, which will be like, now we're gonna put it into form. So these are a very pivotal years we are experiencing. And as I might have mentioned, I'm sure I did, in my previous video, the 2020 to 2025 was to break the patterns, to break the sense of comfort zone, sense of like hubris, like I know and this is the truth and this is how it is, you know, this like being attached to things as they are, because thinking that this is what it is, this is the only way, you know, the 2020 to 2025, you know, the water started heating up, you know, the boiling frog, you know, is starting to become aware, like what's happening, you know. And now this 2026 until 2020, 2030, 2029, 2030, now you deciding, each of us is deciding with this, what I mentioned, free will, more present to us than ever in this incarnation at least. We are deciding, what am I going to do about it? You know, I can't pretend I don't know. I can't pretend I don't see. I can't pretend it's not there. You know, like now with these levels of consciousness that are available to us, you know, with all these the valley thinning, the how you say, the curse is lifting, you know, the spell is lifting, like people are starting to remember, they're starting to be more conscious, they started to be more psychically attuned, more intuitive, right? So yeah, like there is a reality that tells you a story, like, okay, this is how it is, this is the Capricorn, you know, the definition, the restriction, the box. But inside of you, you know, now post Jupiter in Cancer, there is a different intelligence that is really like coming through, that's like, but it doesn't feel right, you know, like, yeah, I can see, you know, I can hear what you're telling me, but it doesn't resonate, you know. So there is this new operational system, a new software that is coming online, that is not connected to the external source, that is saying like, oh yeah, let hear me, see me, feel me, you know, from the external reality. Like I said in my previous video, you know, the senses are a two-sided coin, you know. In one way, they debilitate us because they connect us to the matrix and say, yeah, look, here's the evidence, you know, it feels this way, it looks this way, you can hear it, blah, blah, blah. So this is what it is, right? This is all that is. This is the reality. But we know that reality is on, you know, the manifested reality, the form of the reality. It's only a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage, like 0.001 or something of all that is, right? So if I say like, oh yeah, this reality I'm experiencing, this is all there is, you know, then I'm limiting myself to the 99.9999 whatever unlimited potential that is waiting to be manifest. So this is what I mean, you know, like now we are switching, you know, slowly but surely from this, like, okay, yeah, the senses are telling me this is my reality. Pisces, it could be an illusion, it could be a Maya, right? It could be a confusion, it could be a dream, because this is a dream for the soul, the soul is living a dream, it's your life, right? So, and at the same time, like I said, it's a flip coin, already said last video, it's a flip coin. These senses, when not run by the logical ego mind that is restricted to the past, patterns of the past, but actually connected now to Uranus. Mercury is the ruler of Uranus at the moment, until 2033, 34. So now we have the opportunity to dive into the higher mind, the higher consciousness, the advanced intelligence of the universe, and go like beyond what I see. So then these senses are used in a different way. Like, okay, let me tune in, let me use my extrasensory abilities, the clairs, the clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, all of that claircognition, to perceive reality through a different lens, Jupiter. And Jupiter is now in Leo, illuminated by Sun. Everything that Sun is touching is now connected to Jupiter. Before, everything Moon was touching, but Moon is like our inner world, is not necessarily fully conscious, because most of us, for the most of the time, we are run by our unconscious, in a sense, like the Lilith, the traumas, the patterns of the past that are stuck in a time and space, like unresolved, which is the karma, the trauma, right? So now with Saturn being in Aries, and now Mars is the ruler in Cancer, ruled by the Moon, and Jupiter, which is the expansion of consciousness, the Sagittarius, the Pisces, what do you want to explore next? Being a sign of Leo, pushing us, forcing us to use this energy of the Aries eclipses that we had between 2023 to 2025, which is when Jupiter started his cycle in Aries, use it in a new way. In this new way, because Jupiter is no longer the ruler of the North Node. But the North, we still have an eclipse in Pisces, co-ruled by Jupiter, right? Even though, on the North Node in Aquarius, so we have all these big rulers included. Everything is interwoven into the energy of this eclipse. Literally, all the planets are in some way connected, to this eclipse. So with the Venus, being a sign of Libra, soon to be entering her pre-retrograde shadow, so she will be going, from Scorpio and back to Libra. So she is going to be reborn, because Venus traditionally is being considered, right, because she's at home in Taurus, right? So she's like in her, debilitation, like she's weak in Scorpio. But I don't believe that, I personally, like in evolutionary astrology, there is no polarization. It's not like, oh, this is so bad, I am such a slave to my astrology, why God hates me for. There's no such a thing. Everything in astrology is to serve the purpose of evolution. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. That's why even from evolutionary astrology, like the trines are not perceived as something easy. It means, yeah, your soul is ready for it. You've gone through enough life, Virgo, you've gone through enough life, through enough experience in this form, in this time and age, in this 3D, time, space, and you, to move to the next level of the game. That's a trine in evolutionary astrology. Like, you are ready. Now, is my ego ready? Am I emotional ready? Is my cellular system ready? That carries all this memory of the past. Pisces, Cancer, Mars in Cancer is making it all conscious. Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. Mars going through the same territory Jupiter has just vacated at the end of June. It's making it very conscious to us what Jupiter has been about. Like in Cancer, like, hey, I am not my story. I am not my ancestors. They are part of me. Everything that ever happened on this planet lives within me, because we are all, every single one of us, connected by karma DNA of time and space. All our ancestors, whoever they were and wherever the hell they lived in the world, were connected by time and space, right? At certain incarnation. So it all lives within us. Like, the simplest example, which I, just mentioned to my client yesterday, like, every single one of us has a memory of being burned at the stake, almost. Most people, men, women, we all remember what it felt like. Oh, yeah, shit, I was born at the stake as a witch. A lot of people remember that. Did it happen to everyone? Probably not, but we all remember it. You know, same with the war. We all have this memory, this trauma. You know, you start talking war, everybody feels war. Everybody knows what it feels like. You know, now, did every single one of us gone through it? Well, in this lifetime alone, some did, some didn't. At some point in a history, you know, in our reincarnation, probably we all gone through it, but did we really? Like, who knows? You know, maybe did, maybe didn't. But we all remember, because our carbon DNA remembers, you know, that's the concept, the memory of the past. You know, it remembers everything that ever happened on this planet. You have your own memory as a soul, what you've gone through, and then because currently you are in this astronaut case, you know, like in this costume, you remember everything that comes with it. Everything that ever happened on this planet is remembered. So now with this Mars being in a sign of Cancer, connected to the moon, and Jupiter being in a sign of Leo, connected to the sun, and Mercury as the ruler of the sun being conjunct to sun in a new phase by the point of, you know, this coming out and the eclipse, being the ruler of Uranus, who is the ruler of Pluto. Uranus is the co-rule of the North Node, co-ruled by Saturn in Aries, who is ruled by Mars in Cancer, takes you back to the moon. You know, you get a picture. Literally, this is how you just go jumping all around the chart. You know, Venus in Libra, connected to Chiron. Chiron is connected to Saturn and Uranus, the key between Saturn and Uranus, the manifested form and the potential of the future. So where are we at? What is this eclipse about? It is bringing it into a very tangible form, right? With the Mercury in Virgo, you know, feeling it very strongly, you know, even though it's in Pisces, you know, like, I mean, Moon is in the sign of Pisces, connected to Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is in the sign of Aries, connected to Mars, connected to Moon. You know, you can go in circles here. So where are we at? It's bringing it very tangibly, the memory of the past, the feeling of the present, and the Virgo, you know, the discernment that this is not, I am not my past. The past is part of my experience, but I don't have to keep reliving it. So with the Jupiter now being a sign of Leo and everything hitting home, you know, literally hitting home, Mars in Cancer, hitting home, right? It's like, okay, so who do I want to be? What do I want to create? What reality want to experience? Because if I really allow myself to believe that I am becoming the conscious creator of my reality, because we are creators all the time, right? But if I take the responsibility for this statement and learn to embody it as my truth, that I am the conscious creator of my reality, then what do I want to create? You know, and that's the trine between Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn in Aries, retrograde, like we are doing this strong processing of what does it feel like to be the authority? What does it mean, you know? Like I said before, you know, like, again, I'm just repeating myself in every video because there's nothing new under the sun. The freedom we all seeking is not money. The freedom we all seeking is the freedom of choice, like to have the freedom to choose whatever you want. And the way this world is set up, you know, to screw you over and make you a failure is through, you know, the systems that are in charge, which, you know, are being mostly dominated by money, right? So this is the Chiron in Taurus at the moment, where all this sense of unworthiness and, you know, how much do I have? What do I have? So what is my value? You know, like, what is the worth of me in this world, right? But it's saying, okay, but Saturn is in Aries. This is not how it's gonna be going forward. Like, yeah, you know, that's all we see right now, the manifested reality. I can see a proof for it that this is how it is right now. But the Uranus is in Gemini and the Mercury is in Virgo, connected to the eclipse. So it's saying, but it doesn't have to be the way. You can change it, you know, Virgo. You can make an adjustments because, you know, Jupiter is not even in Virgo yet. It's gonna be next year, you know, and it's gonna be 2 years from now when it enters Libra, when things will be balanced, you know, and with Saturn being in Taurus by that point, you know, there is the natural inconjunction. You create whatever you want, you know. So all of these energies right now that's been stirred up over the past 2 years, you know, longer, but, you know, we're talking about the Pisces eclipse cycle. So technically, yeah, when it all began with the Pisces new moon of the 2024, it's been stirred up, brought to the surface, so you can see how much you've been processing since 2024. You know, what has been coming up for you with the anuretic Pluto 29-0, you know, 29 Capricorn, 0 Aquarius, like the struggle, you know, the opposition between Saturn and Venus, you know, the struggle, you know, like, oh, but this is what is. So how can I go beyond that when my mind, my brain and my body is connected to this reality through the senses, and it tells me this is it, this is the absolute, but there is no absolution. There is no absolution. This is also with the final eclipse in Pisces what we learn in being squared by Uranus, resolution node, north node, 29 degrees Aquarius. There is no absolution. The universe is in a constant state of chaos, constant state of death and rebirth. So this is where this eclipse, moon on a 4 degrees connected to the north node on 29 degrees, the Cancer moon on 4 degrees, Cancer degree of Piscean decan. It's saying the old sense of self is already gone, but we catching up with the Virgo. I need to learn to embody it. I need to learn to adjust, modify my nervous system in order to be able to handle that, to be able to acknowledge that, oh, there is no tiger anymore chasing after me. The karma wheel has stopped. I don't owe anything to anyone anymore. The South Node in Leo, my purpose is not my identity. I decide, I have the power, with the Saturn, soon to be trining at some point next year. South Node, in Leo. Like, no, I can create. I can make a new choice. Jupiter is in Leo. I can create. I can create something new, something that is in alignment with the authentic expression of my soul. Because we came here for many things, but now that aspect of our soul, the judgment card, being woken up into the true purpose of your soul. Yeah, you played all these roles for all these people and serve all these, and you still are. You're still serving. But now it's through the authentic expression, no longer like I have to sacrifice myself, I have to play this role for you, and I'm so sick and tired of that. It doesn't feel right anymore. I feel so restricted. I feel like I'm playing small, or I have to act and I have to put a mask on and be someone else. All of that is finished. All of that is coming to the end. So this is why with the Piscean eclipse, all of this is becoming super conscious to us, super aware, super felt. Maybe we don't have the words very good because words are limiting. They can't really describe, it's just keeping us stuck in a loop, Mercury as an ego mind. But Mercury is in Virgo, that is traditional rulership exaltation. But Mercury is the ruler of Uranus, and Mercury in Aquarius is exalted, right? But there is an inconjunction between Virgo and Aquarius, so it's like, well, but I haven't gone through it. How do I know? Well, this is the Pisces. You just have to trust and have faith. So this, like what I studied, like it all served, the religion, the culture in Piscean age all served because it gave people something to live for, something to hold on to grab onto, because people forgot that they are gods. They forgot they are creators because of the conditioning, because of the lack of information, because of the spell, right? But now we're remembering, now we are awakening, now we have an access to whatever, too much information, so we learn in discernment, like what is, the Virgo trying to Taurus, what is relevant to me? What is helping me to create the reality I want? Like there is like all the information in the world, and based on the mutable signs energy, you kind of find a true proof for whatever truth you believe in. It doesn't matter what it is, you will find the proof you're right, because that's how it works. So I feel with the Pisces, and like I said, there is one more eclipse in Virgo next year, but with this last one in Pisces, the delusions are could be still confusing, but are becoming very seen. It's in opposition with Mercury. Like I can see you now. With the Uranus, I might not understand everything, but I have a sense, because now Mercury is connected to Uranus. In Gemini, so it's like, the Gemini could be a trickster, but with the Uranus there, the old program is getting more and more holes, because people are tuning into something that is beyond the program, beyond the conditioning, beyond the known, beyond what the senses with regards to external relationship are saying. Now we are learning to attune our inner senses that are supernatural, like I don't have a proof, but I just know. And maybe it's not the truth for everyone, but it's the truth for me, and that's all that matters for right here, right now, because that might change tomorrow. Things are always changing. So yeah, with the Uranus square in this final moon in Pisces, lunar eclipse, I mean, there is obviously going to be more moons in Pisces, but lunar eclipse for now, for the next 8 years or 9. we are learning that it's not all what it seems, because the Uranus is putting so much pressure, and it's forcing us to attune to this higher mind, to this different way of perceiving reality that goes beyond the senses, which is the new way of learning to form and define things. Saturn in Aries, in square with Mars, first quarter square for Mars, which is saying that yes, I'm learning to feel differently. I'm learning to see myself differently. I'm learning to identify myself through the lens of Aquarius, which is ever changing. It's not in a box, it's always growing and evolving. And the Venus in Libra is just balancing it all. Like, yeah, we experience one extreme, other extreme. Before it was a god, now it's an AI, same thing, different costume. But actually, the main thing, consciousness that will navigate you through your life is you. It lives in you, because yeah, the AI can give you information. The God will, the God, as I mean the God projected outwardly, the books, the religion, not that God that lives within you, which is you, that thing we put on a pedestal as above us, as a Capricorn, the old ruler, it is man-made. So it's going to only give you the information that are a reflection of the time and space that you are living in. That's why the old religions, especially in their very dogmatic form, are extremely limiting right now, because they are bounding to time and space they were created in. And the time has changed, the space has changed, you as an identity observing reality has changed. So this is why everything is being redefined. Doesn't mean it's all bad or it's all redundant, but this is where we use discernment. What out of this is relevant and it holds the energy of expansion rather than limitation, So anyway, I think I'll leave it at that, because I don't know what else to say about these things. With the Pisces, the Piscean age is illuminated, squared by the Aquarian age, and with all this opposition, we learn in a way to balance the two. And this is the story for the next cycle. So with all that, I'm going to pull a card, and let's see what the Queen of the Moon has to say about this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, the final one. Full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, 27, 28 of August of the year 10, 0 and the 1. What is the energy of the Pisces eclipse? Okay. Growth. This card keeps coming up so much. So much. And yeah, it's number 5. Yeah, perfect. Mercury is on number 5. The eclipse is actually on 4 degrees. But the growth, it's time. It's time, it's time. This blue thing, actually, to me, I think it might be Earth, but it looks more like Neptune, because it's all blue, right? So yeah, we outgrown the Piscean age. It's time, we metamorphose into something else now. We creating foundation for the future we can't yet see. We can't yet see, because if you knew what it is, then it would be the replication of the past. So we're learning to attune in a different way, the five senses, sixth sense, extra sensory perception. And then below that is realization. Yeah, this is a moon of realization. Also how far you've come, like since 2024, how far you've come. And there is this new portal, this Jupiter post-Cancer now in Leo. There is this new portal being illuminated. Number 3, yes, expansion of consciousness. We are being reborn. Saturn and Neptune are in Aries. A new cycle had begun. We don't know where we're going, but we know where we've been, and we've outgrown that. Now the roots are growing around what holds the meaning, like from the past, a new future is created, but it's not to be replicated, but we excavate the meaning. what was all of this for, what it served, you know? So there is no charge. So we don't go like, oh, this is so bad, I wish it never happened, because then it holds charged and then I have to balance it, you know? It's the neutrality, you know, being neutral, like, yeah, you know, I can see the value of it. I can see both aspects. It wasn't great to go through the experience, but now I can see the value of it. So I release it. I release the grasp it had on me, feeling victimized by circumstances. So it's time, you know, it's time to grow stronger roots that are connected to the spirit, that are connected to the inner knowing. Yeah, there's also, I feel, the Chiron in Taurus in this particular case, and the realization, yeah, you know, we are entering into a new portal, you know, no more no more any eclipses in Pisces for the next 8 years or so. Okay, now we have the angels and ancestors. So I'm going to ask for the wisdom of the ancestors, because of course Mars is in Cancer, Moon, you know, it's in Pisces, connected to the Mars is connected to Pluto, you know. So anyway, let's see, wisdom of the ancestors. What gifts do they want to offer at this time of the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces? Winter, take care of your needs. Yeah. And this card has come, I think last time I used this deck, it's also that there might be a lot of things, you know, that are, you know, with regards to what's going on now, much more clear in a winter season. You know, we are soon to be having the equinox, and winter will be the solstice, Capricorn season, trines the Virgo season we are currently in. So the wolf, the thing with the wolf, as we know, is that they can be the leader of the pack if the pack is in resonance, or wolf can go on his own. It can be a sigma. So take care of your needs, you know, like you are creating the new foundation of your future with the Chiron in Taurus. So what do you want to grow from that foundation? So if you don't feel that the place, people, circumstances can support you in that, then, you know, maybe for a time you have to, you know, go into hermit mode. Winter, like hermit mode. Yeah, Virgo, hermit, right? And then at the bottom is the seer. See beyond the current circumstances. Yeah, this is very Piscean card, you know, like you can't really see, but you can feel, you know, you can trust, you can envision. So trust that which you not yet can see. If nobody around you can see, then still trust it. Because whatever comes from you is for you. It's not necessarily for other people. So that's why the wolf. You know, not everybody will understand the inconjunction between Taurus and Libra. Not everybody will understand. There's also an inconjunction between Libra and Pisces. Not everybody will understand, because the meaning for people is different. You know, they might go through the same experience, but the meaning of the experience is different. So we're learning to see beyond. We're learning to see beyond what is, you know, this situation, which is currently presented. Like, but there is more to it. It is not just this alone. You know, nothing is happening in separation. Everything is cyclical. The cycles are always building on a cycle, on the top of the cycles. It's not like one thing begins on another end and there is the fixed beginning and fixed end. Things spill into, you know, cycles into cycles into cycles. Even though, like I said, this is the final eclipse in Pisces for now, but it doesn't end here. We're gonna have another new moon in, you know, in Pisces. And eventually we're gonna have another eclipses in Pisces, you know. So, but the nodes will be in opposite place. So we always building on the cycles we've already gone through. But yeah, I really feel like we need to learn to trust that which we can't see, you know, to guide us. Like, you are your fortune teller. You know, there's no one else to tell you what your future is. You decide what it is. You're creating it in every moment. And yeah, if you need to withdraw from certain environments because they don't reflect that vision, then you do it, because your needs matter. You matter. You know, the Chiron in Taurus, where you will go from the Capricorn is determined by your Taurus. You know, the Saturn in Aries, and then it goes into the Uranus in Gemini. Where you will go, what is your timeline opening up for you, which timeline you are making adjustments for with the Mercury in Virgo right now, is determined by your Chiron in Taurus. You know, like how much do you trust yourself? How much you are grounded in your awareness that you are here to create your life for yourself and others, but especially you came here to live your own life, not somebody else's, you know? You're not slave to somebody else. That was the Pisces age. So anyway, final card. This is the major arcana, the final card for this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, the final eclipse for 2026, High Priestess. Yeah, perfect. It's all this nebulous energy, you know, Pisces, Cancer, all this nebulous energy. The answer is within you. The answer is within you. This is the moon. The answer is within you. You know, the choice is within you. There is no wrong choice. There is just a choice. So whatever feels right to you, you already know the answer. You already know. And then the sun. Sun and the moon. Perfect. Sun and the moon. The sun. It will all work out at the end because sun, this is the most auspicious card of the entire deck. So you already know that you are being reborn. Where you going, you might not know, but that's good because, you know, like if you knew you were going to be replicating the past, this is number 19, which is the 1 and 9, 10, 0 and the 1, right? We are in a process of being reborn. And we are being reborn into learning to trust. New navigational system, new operational system, the moon, the feminine, learning to trust the guidance from within. And that will take you where you meant to go, to create what you meant to create, what you came here to do, with your signature of your soul. You know, you didn't come here to just keep copying what was before you. No, you came here to create something that will leave your signature in it, not a repetition or replication of somebody else's. So anyway, I hope that some of that made sense. I'm gonna leave it at this. And yeah, once again, if you would like to take advantage of my sale, then that is still possible until the end of the month. Reach out, and if not, then wait what else is in store, because I will be restructuring everything, all my services and pricing coming equinox next month. And yeah, with all of that said, enjoy the rest of the summer, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Much love everyone, and bye for now.